So I've been inside all day, and it's not as if I've been locked there or stuck there. I've actually been doing some good things, which I'll show you in a little bit. But I haven't been outside much today because it's been rainy. And it just is cold. It's 45 degrees. Ugh. But I decided that I would go out and take a walk. And I'd bring this little camera. So a little note about this. It's kind of weird to walk around with a camera like this. The setup is, well, it's a little intense. I want to show you a picture of what it looks like. Because, well, you know, if you see a guy walking down the street that looks like this, carrying one of these around, you think they're a weirdo. I mean, I am a weirdo, but I don't like to broadcast it, you know? I like to kind of keep it secret. But anyway, it's kind of a crappy day out. And it's been a crappy day for the last few days here in Chicago, which has kept me inside, and I think it's probably ruined my mood. It's definitely made it harder for me to get along. And every tiny little thing that you have to deal with, you know, in your life makes everything that much harder, I feel like, in the pandemic. At least for me. So, just forcing myself to get outside. No train. Just forcing myself to get outside and walk around. It takes a bit of an effort. I mean, I feel better when I do, but it still takes an effort. How are you doing? You doing okay? You couple dozen of people who watch this. By the way, I haven't done a video this week, at least since Tuesday, and a couple of you have reached out to ask if I got sick or something, and I gotta tell you, I really appreciate that. It's nice that you actually watch this and you actually care. So anyway, let me show you what I've been up to inside today. The first thing I had to show you is this home office that I finally set up. I got a desk, which is pretty great. You can see I finally have a place to sit and work. I can look outside, which is really cool. Before I had been sitting in this chair, which is comfortable, but it's not really a place to work, you know. Anyway, what I want to show you today is this video I made of a Zoom chat I had earlier today with 4 other people. One of them is Emily, and she lives in New York. The two others live in San Antonio, Texas. And one of them is my friend David, who lives here outside of Chicago. Anyway, 3 of us had gotten together, 4 of us had gotten together in Chicago for this Geek Bowl, a giant trivia contest from people all over the country. Emily, who lives in New York City, wasn't able to come because I think about 10 years ago she had a kidney transplant, and her doctors told her it wasn't a good idea to travel on March 7th, which was 6 weeks ago when we got together for this. Anyway, here's the conversation. It's pretty interesting. I want to show you guys a video that I took on the 7th, just to like set the stage. So hold on a second.
Is this your 28 days later video? Oh, that was us.
People just liked it better than we.
It's like this all night. All right.
That was pre-stash.
Yeah, that was pre-stash. There were 1,500 people in that room.
There were, but you notice we were all kind of like stuck at our tables, right? Like we all
We
just
were jammed in between all the people.
we only got enough alcohol and to go to the bathroom. That was it.
I mean, what do you guys think? I mean, after this like 5 or 6 weeks since it's been since then, what's it like to see that scene and know that you were there?
I mean, on the one hand, maybe we're all hermits.
So I was thinking the 2 weeks after, I just waited to see if I had symptoms. So we get on the plane and there's somebody coughing and somebody looks ill and the plane is halfway full, like Amanda had said. And that's where I started to get really concerned. Flying in, I didn't have that concern. Flying out and then having to shut my bar down on, when did I shut my bar? So I got back into town March 8th. I shut my bar down March 15th. Yeah. So 7 days after we rolled back into town, I realized that I couldn't, in good faith, keep it operating and keep my employees safe, right? So we shut down preemptively before the city made us. And I just, in the 7 days after, as it became more and more serious, I just waited for symptoms because I realized, first of all, that we were in Chicago that had more cases than we did here in San Antonio. And secondly, we were in that hall with at least 1,000 people. I didn't know how many for sure.
1,500.
I just waited. I just waited to make sure I was okay.
But
I hate to say it, I've had zero introspection about after we attended that. I just had a good time and enjoyed meeting some new people, right? You guys are on the phone. You know, it was just because it was a home game for me here in Chicago, it hasn't caused the same type of level of fear or again, really of introspection. Why the hell did I go? What was I thinking? Or any of that other stuff. I mean, I saw the Geek Bowl little brown bag where I bought some swag in the house that we're using to hold post Passover Haggadahs. They're just in there right now, and just made me smile more than anything else. But I think I've just focused on the good stuff because I don't want to think about the bad stuff. I mean, who wants to think about it?
I know Nicole and I had a large conversation the day before we all left, talking about how we were glad Emily didn't come, because if we were panicked about just two semi-healthy adults wandering the streets and being in close proximity to people, we could not imagine the anxiety that Emily would have had to do that. So
yeah, and
I'm
I
glad
had
you stayed home, Emily.
Thank you. And I had a group event in Manhattan on the 11th, and for the 2 weeks afterwards, I was so worried. And now I know what panic attacks are. I was really freaking out. It was the last time I went on the subway. I only went on the subway twice, all of March, and I was incredibly worried. And nobody ever reached out to say anyone was sick. Everything was fine. But knowing now, at the time, that was before the 6-foot rule. So we were not touching each other. We were doing elbow handshakes. But as we learned more, you realize how stupid we were to be in a locked room with 20 people. And you realize the more information you get, how much dumber those decisions were, even though you were being careful or thought you were being careful.
So I want to say something, which is that, so I have, a lot of people say that they have it, but I am actually diagnosed ADHD. And it is a major part of my life. And I have all these different things that I've created in order to manage having ADHD. So like, for instance, I used to go swimming 3 or 4 times a week, which was like the sensory experience that calms me down. And I can't do that anymore. They closed down all the pools. And I used to, go, like if I just started getting stressed out, I could go somewhere, and just being in a different place would help me kind of chill out a little bit. I mean, on the one hand, I sort of feel like, I'm okay. There's no real big problems in my life. But the total loss of control that I feel like I have in the world, like the Trump's statement about injecting disinfectant and having UV light shined in through your skin, there's all kinds of jokes that people make. Haha, it's hilarious how dumb he is. but at the same time, it's making me think, oh shit, this is only going to get worse. And we're not being helped. And that has really, really stressed me out.
But Mike, hasn't that stressed you out because it also affects your world view from a political perspective? I mean,
No, I want to get the fuck out of my house. I want to go swim. I want to go visit a place. I want to go hang out with people. And the longer that we have this crazy bullshit of managing this thing, the longer it's going to be before I get to hang out with you and you and you and you and you. And that's what I keep thinking. I mean, this thing where, you know, Georgia is going to open up and everyone's going to be circulating around in Georgia, they're going to have another relapse. And some person from Georgia is going to come to Illinois and is going to get a bunch of people sick in Illinois. I know what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Or if not Illinois, some other place.
so
And-
is it making you angry, or
Yes,
I could use the word hate,
angry.
other Americans or other
No,
whoever?
I'm angry at Trump, and I'm angry at his people for their complete, total disregard for science and thought and process and expertise. I mean, the whole thing where Trump is talking from the podium and the camera goes in and zooms on Dr. Deborah Birx. And, you know, ha ha ha, somebody put the Curb Your Enthusiasm music to it, which is perfect as a joke. But oh my God, I got a WhatsApp from a friend of mine in India who's like, you guys are fucked.
And you know what adds to it is it's, yes, I think that's the face of it, the face of the ineptitude that we have created as a country. And I feel like, for me, what I feel is this is what happens because we've approved and allowed for cuts to things like education, and we've allowed privatization of things like healthcare. And we as a larger society have chosen to be willfully ignorant of so much. And this is just highlighting all of it. And locally here, just, I want to reach through the internet and slap people. So a week and a half ago, I muted and unfollowed 80% of things on my feed because it was stressing me out. It was making me angry. My coping mechanism is isolation. Like, I thrive in isolation. But I have two hellspawn who I love dearly who are with me 24/7. I cannot, this is like, the fact that they have not come in here is astounding. But for me to cope, I need silence. I need to be alone, and I don't have that. So my anger keeps bubbling, and I can just feel like my blood pressure cycling through, and I know my cortisol is out of control. So what do? And now it's 98 degrees, so I can't go for a walk.
I went for a walk. I went for a run yesterday at like 6:30. So y'all can't, Mike, you guys can't go to parks or anything right now?
The big parks, actually, the mayor shut down. The lakefront was shut down because there were too many people and it was getting crowded. You can go to parks, but there's so many people there. It gets scary. There's a lot of talk about that. I mean, I get up at 6:30 in the morning and I go for an hour walk, which is fine. But I gotta be honest, that does not, and I've tried biking too, none of it does what swimming does.
And the reality is for those of us in Illinois and in New York, and whatever, when we hear how people in Texas and Georgia, as a general rule, seem to be reacting, you guys are suffering from our general thoughts as to what we think about is going on there. I hate to say it, but as we talk about what other citizens are doing and what's making us angry,
Yeah, it's us.
it makes me say, screw those guys, right? We're trying to take it seriously up here. We have a larger social safety net, right? We pay for it, right? We're taxed more. We make that decision, and then we see people, whether it be Mitch McConnell, who's peddling the same crap he's peddled for the last 30 years, mind you, you know, it makes me very unsympathetic to the people who elected him, or in your case, the people who elected Ted Cruz. Even though I would bet 1,000,000 to 1 that you didn't even take 2 seconds to think about that idea.
Right.
So we've got Dan Patrick offering up the elderly of the community as sacrifice.
Or just
Yeah.
anybody sick. They can all just die. Do it for their country.
And we're also in the middle of anti-vax country.
Mm.
A cousin I had to unfriend yesterday, and I loved her to death, but she went on some rant about how formaldehyde and some other chemical are in vaccines, so why do we care if Trump's telling us to inject ourselves? It was next level. It was next level.
That's right.
Well, you guys are talking about the politics, but I'm really curious about just how you feel.
Well, no, but it's more than politics. I mean, look, I'm angry. You know, when you talk about why can't you go out, right? I feel like I can't go out, and I can only imagine how Emily feels. I can't go out because of the vast number of people who are acting stupidly or are just flying in the face of what scientists are saying or responsible people are saying. Look, am I angry that the president is a clown? And look, I've been angry about that for 3.5 years now, give or take. Okay. But specifically right now, I'm even angrier at my fellow citizens for how they're acting as individuals. They already did their bad act in electing him, right? But part of why I'm home longer, part of why I can't do a variety of things is their irresponsibility. And I talk about something I have no control over. I mean, absolutely zero. And that's why I'm curious to hear what Emily has to say, because if I'm pissed off and I can still take a walk with my kids and my dog, I couldn't imagine how angry she must be right now.
I'm obviously scared. I think a lot about when we reopen, that these plans are to start with people who've had the virus and people who are younger and who could theoretically get over it quickly, and people who have the antibodies. And at some point that's going to leave the vulnerable still at home. And that upsets me. So that's the big emotion I'm grappling with now. I'm unemployed at this moment, and I don't know how I will get reemployed if I can't go to an in-person interview or can't get drug tested. I'm looking at remote opportunities going forward because I have to take care of myself, to the point earlier that the government isn't looking out for us really. The other feeling is the anger at the president and at the overwhelming, I know it's a minority of people who believe the nonsense, but it's a very vocal minority. My work lunch buddy passed away from the virus 2 weeks ago, and I posted something online and got attacked by a couple of people who were like, "Oh, I'm sorry your friend died, but he didn't die from a virus. Stop believing the government." And I just couldn't fathom how callous we become back to we're looking out for ourselves, that we're going to disregard science and we're going to punch holes in academia and government is shocking to me, and that we've lost the ability to be kind. And so I'm really proud to be in New York, where it's being taken seriously here. As far as I can tell, I don't see people out. Very few people are left in my apartment building. We've all coordinated their few trips out, and I don't see a lot of people out on the street. So at 7 o'clock, when we cheer for the caregivers in the first line of defense, that's a moment where, to Mike's point, that we can release the energy that's pent up in our four walls. And I think that's part of why people are so excited to scream out their windows, which you would not have thought that for New York City, we don't know our neighbors literally on the other side of our walls. And yet we're waving at people from other buildings and we're cheering and we're just trying to get out all of that anger and fear in those 2.5 minutes that we have each night.
That sounds amazingly cathartic.
Yeah, I usually in tears at the end of it. So I sometimes don't do it because I don't want to start crying.
One of the things that bothers me is that I have an absence of hope. As I look around and my anger at these other people, I don't think they're going to change. I don't think a lot of things are going to change. Am I wrong in feeling somewhat hopeless about society or my fellow citizens? I mean, I could use a little bit of a pick-me-up, and that's why I asked that.
I am hopeful. There's a kernel of hope that I keep because we have to fall apart and the only thing left is to get up after that, however far we get up, right? And it's not, we are, right? So this is our apocalypse. We have to be more vocal and take more action and make that change, the changes that we see that we need, right? So we know we need stronger leadership. What we have isn't working. We're burning it down. It's literally burning down around us. Burn the fucker down. What do we want to see at the other end? And that comes to us, right? So we have to keep pushing through. And I know Vanessa and I go back and forth of taking turns being the most cynical.
I will say that, you know, I look back very fondly at my time in Chicago because it was the last thing that I got to do before this all happened. And Chicago is one of my favorite places to visit. And so being able to spend time at the bars and the venues and with you good people that I got to meet and that I love already, Amanda, that I got to have that experience before this chaos. I really did. I take a lot from that, and I get to look back at it fondly. Every Sunday I wear my Geek Bowl shirt whenever I'm out and about. I put the little Scrabble pieces up at on my nightstand so that I can play with them. It's just little things, and I'm glad that I was able to spend that time with you guys and enjoyed that before all this happened. I feel very lucky to have had that experience.
Me too.
Agreed.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks. Well, I don't know, maybe we should end on that note.
So you guys always have an invitation to come down here and experience a small pocket of the South that isn't as insane as the rest of the South.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank
At least
you.
people aren't. We're not.
Right. So yeah. Kids or no kids, y'all. Bring them, don't bring them, whatever.
I like the sound of that.
Right. All right. Well,
Put
thank you
this
guys.
together, Mike.
Thank you.
for doing this. I really,
Mike,
really.
any words of wisdom to end this?
Mustaches are overrated.
Cooling
Ooh,
for
I'll see a Texas one.
overrated.
Stay safe, y'all.
Bye.
That's right. Bye, everybody.
Istanbul,